Hello everybody, welcome back to Mercury Fleet Command, where we're going to today be delving into another Imperial build. Today was one called Full Frontal Rudity. Nice little fleet that I put together to play in a regionals earlier this year. So it's going to be a 3-ship, 4-activation Imperial fleet. First thing we're going to add is a Gladiator 1. On the Gladiator 1, we're going to add Montferrat, Admiral Montferrat. And so when you're defending against a ship, if your speed is higher than 3 or higher, the attack is treated as obstructed. So obviously we want to keep the ship going fast all the time. Next thing we're going to add is Ordinance Experts. Black dice boats need to re-roll black dice. Pretty traditional engine techs here, so that way we can move just a little bit further. And then here's where you get the choice of diversity in the fleet. You can either roll ACM, Assault Concussion Missiles, or APTs, Assault Proton Torpedoes. I personally like Assault Concussion Missiles a little bit more than APTs, just because at the end of the day, they end up being more overall damage. And then you got to add Demolisher, because why not break game mechanics? The next thing we're going to add is an ISD, and we're going to add the big brother version of the Gladiator, the Kuat. On this Kuat, we are going to run Strategic Advisor. Then we're going to follow that up with some Ordinance Experts, because black dice boats need rerolls. Then we're going to go with Quad Laser Turrets. This is going to be a squadronless list, so we're going to need to deal with squadrons somehow. So this is how we're going to deal with squadrons that come in on one of your 2 ISDs. No defense. Oh yeah, I'm sorry. I take that back. We do run reinforced blast doors. You're going to be taking damage, so just to wipe a few off, that's the way to do it. The next thing we're going to add is switch over here to black dice, and again ACMs. You could make this entire fleet 4 points cheaper if you want with APTs on both the Gladiator and the Kuat, but I prefer dealing more damage overall. Okay, so next thing we're going to add is another ISD, and my personal favorite flavor, Cymoon. Alright, on the Cymoon, we're actually going to put our Admiral. Long dice boat keeps out of the fight for most of the time, so we're going to put Screed. Now, we'll get into tactics in a minute, but Screed is going to make your other 2 work really well and be marginally okay for your Cymoon. We're going to put Wulff Yularen. Next thing we're going to do, we're actually going to put a fleet command on here, and not the one that you're thinking. Most people would want to throw Intensify Firepower on here. Today I'm going to be adding in Entrapment Formation. This is actually going to let us do some crazy simple things with speeding up and slowing down as we need to go. So you can't avoid gunnery teams. You have to have it on a red dice boat, so that way you can shoot. Cymoon's got to front arc everything. That's its goal in life. And if you aren't running gunnery teams, you're reducing your overall shots. Okay, so again, we're going to need a little bit of anti-squadron help. So there's a little bit of anti-squadron help with quad laser turrets. And sadly, this is not a 8-dice Cymoon, so we're going to build it slightly differently. So we're going to go with double X9s. And then we're going to go with quad battery turrets. Okay. That's the fleet build on this. So let's tear it apart a little bit. We'll start with our Glad 1. So our Glad 1 is a really heavy build into Demolisher. So Demolisher is the backbone of this. We're going to shoot, move, shoot. So you're going to want to soften with your 2 reds. Then you're going to want to move in close and tie him down with your 4 black. Now, this is where the tactics come in. Screed, once per activation, when a friendly ship is attacking, it may spend one die to change a die to a face with a crit icon. So the way that this works is, even if it's off your front attack and somehow you manage to get your black dice in range on your front, kudos to you. You can dump a blank to get a different dice to be a hit, or a crit. So you can change the red to be a crit, or you can change one of your black to be a hit crit. So the way that you're gonna do this, you're gonna roll your dice pool, then you're gonna roll Ordinance Experts, and then you're gonna try and Screed. I try and use Screed as early as possible in my rotation, so long as they're not running Damage Control Officer. If they're running Damage Control Officer, then you pretty much shut down on your black dice crits. But go ahead and Screed into it, force them to use it, so that way this nice lot of 5 or 4 black that's coming up next can really do some damage. Engine text, so the one that you're going to be using the most with this, the command you're going to be using the most with this is navigate, so that way you can get the most out of your engine text. Other than that, you're going to be wanting to run concentrate fires. Okay, then let's move on down to the Kuat. So the Kuat is just the Big Daddy version of this. This ship is going to be moving speed 3 most of the time, right alongside the Gladiator. And you're going to be activating it. First, you're going to be using strategic, then you're going to be activating it after you've activated your Gladiator. It's going to take a little bit of damage as stuff comes in, so that's why you're going to want to run Reinforced Blast Doors. Do not be afraid to use Reinforced Blast Doors. Don't wait for you to have 5 damage stacked up on it. If you have 2 damage stacked on it, that's fine. Go ahead and use Reinforced Black Doors. I've had plenty of games where I've waited till I had 5 or 6, and then, they have first turn, and then all of a sudden my Kuat disappears because it hasn't had a chance to remove that damage. Let's see. Then we're going to go, this is again, Assault Concussion Missiles. It's 2 extra damage that you didn't have to do anything for. Ordinance Experts, re-rolling black dice. And then that moves us into our Cymoon. So our Cymoon here is going to first turn run the navigate command. And then we're going to tokenize it and not do anything with it. Then every turn after that, you'll use your navigate token and Wulff Yularen to power Entrapment Formation. Now, Entrapment Formation will allow you to run your fleet at whatever speed you think is good and then respond. So generally I run the Cymoon at 1, and I always have the option to jump up to 2 and spend the token to jump up to 3 if I needed to. That'll give your Gladiator the chance to slow down to 2 if it needs to, and then your Kuat the ability to slow down to 2 without changing the commands that you're going to need to run. Gunnery Team, already talked about that. You got to have it on a red dice boat. And then, so let's get into this aspect down here, the double X9s and the quad battery turrets. Why did I choose these? Why is it not an 8 dice Cymoon? We just watched the video. Why? So, I'm spending most of my time at speed 1. I'm actually going to deploy at speed 2 and wait to drop this down to speed 1 with Entrapment Formation, because everybody's going to be just outside of range to start with. 2 will get you jumped up into range, and then your you can use the token to slow down to 1, wolf it on the first turn, and then everybody who's prepared and ready for a navigate on their first turn will just match your speed generally when they see quad battery turrets. So if you're 2, they'll be 2. And then you're going to roll a navigate, and you're going to bank that token, and then you're going to use that token to slow down during your determined course step and wolf foot back, so that way you have entrapment formation. This will allow anybody from the outside to feel comfortable that, hey, I didn't take a navigate, or okay, he's 2 slowing down to 1. It changes the dynamic on how they activate their speed. So the reason why we want to be going slow, obviously red dice. Second is, when you're attacking a ship at a higher speed than you may add 1 blue to your attack pool. So that's 5 red and 1 blue. It's just extra blue that's always very helpful, especially when getting accuracy. Since we're not compounding accuracies like a normal 8 dice build does, this allows you to get some much needed accuracies. And then double X9s. So this is a crafty little way to get around contain. That's the only reason I've included it in here. Is fun, easy, simple way to get around contain. Oh, you've got to contain? Fantastic. I'm going to go ahead and use double X9s. Use it regardless of whether or not you have 2 damage going through to the hull. Always use it. Any crit can trigger it. So, bam, your red dice, fine, fantastic. Your blue dice gets a crit, still fine. Triggered double X9s. It's silly, it's stupid, but always use that ability. It never hurts you not to. If they have DCO, just go ahead and still use the ability, because it's going to force them to use their contain as they need to do it. If you are getting a unchecked double X9 shot for 2 or more damage through, 2 face-up cards can really wreck somebody's day. It's a nasty thing to be staring at, so don't be afraid of it. Other than that, that's the build out. So let's take a moment to look at which objectives we're going to choose for this. So we're going to add our assault. Like I said, I have a love affair for station assault, and I'm just going to blanket pick it. Anything that keeps people from shooting at you is good. 80 points offsets the loss of the Gladiator, which you will likely take in this fleet. Gladiator's 90 points, 80 points from station assault. It's 10 points, and then you can make that up rather quick with the fact that you're running 2 Star Destroyers. You can pick off a Nebulon B, a Corvette, and balance out those totals real quick. Okay, for our yellow here, our defense, we're actually going to go with Fleet Ambush. And this is actually going to allow you to get somebody well off guard. If they choose this, they get to deploy fun ships inside a small kill box, at which point you can basically hyena them and just jump and pounce and kill whatever's in that box real quick. Not a lot will be able to stand up to a Kuat and a Demolisher pounding on them on the first turn. Generally, though, more skilled players will deploy their Gazantes or their flotillas at the back of the box, running out of the box back towards their own deployment zone. So, skilled players will know how to deal with Fleet Ambush, or cocky players will just fall into a trap that a Kuat, a Cymoon, and a Demolisher are just going to rip them a new one. And for navigation, we're going to go with Dangerous Territory. Dangerous Territory, you've got all these ships that don't want to turn. 1 and 1, 1 and 1, and 1 and 1. They don't want to turn. So this allows you to just not care about your obstacles that are in the way. So that, like I said, that just ignore all the obstacles. And if you happen to land on an obstacle, you actually get rewarded for it. That's a pretty solid motion. Other than that, I think that this is a straightforward fleet. Like I said, I've used this in a regionals and placed marginally well. I would suggest playing through it a few times to get a feel for it. Traditional deployment is something I like to call the pinwheel. So it'll be Screed set down, and then to the left, you'll set your Kuat, and to the left of the Kuat, you'll set your Gladiator, at which point you'll move in the exact opposite order, but you'll pinwheel around to the right. So if you're going to be facing an opponent, you want the bulk of their fleet in the negative space or the empty space where you haven't deployed your fleet. And that's where your Cymoon will sit, and it'll make small little turns towards them. And then your other ships will make larger, faster moves, sweeping around, pinwheeling around the Cymoon. And this will basically keep everything nice and safe, and most of your long range shots will engage on the same turn. And the only different deployment that I would suggest is when they choose fleet ambush. I would suggest, murdering if you got a cocky player, setting your Kuat and your Demolisher to be in range on turn 2 and just murdering it as fast as possible, and then keeping your Cymoon well in the flanks, well in the back, to respond to whatever things that he's got planned to deal with, how you're going to murder whatever's in the fleet ambush zone. Thanks for taking the time. I hope that you tried this build and enjoy it. If you have any comments or suggestions, please hit me up on Facebook through the Mercury Fleet group. I think at the bottom of the screen it's slowly displaying, yep, there, join our Facebook group. Search Houston Star Wars Armada Mercury Fleet Command, and you'll find us, and we'll go ahead and add you. And we enjoy new members in our community all the time. And as usual, have fun, fly casual.